Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about economics and crypto and lots of other fun things. Some of you pointed out that I did not have a video yesterday, and I actually did, but I made it on Friday, which I sometimes do. And I accidentally hit publish on Friday. And so it looks like this video right here that with the sticker that says not this time, it looks like that was made a couple days ago. That it was, but it was supposed to be published on Monday, June 2nd. And instead it's showing up as 2 days ago. You say views are way low. So in case you want to watch that video, I make a case for why Bitcoin, at least I pull charts, making a case for why Bitcoin is not facing a double top scenario similar to 2021. We're seeing that narrative play itself out a lot on X. So check that video out if you have time, but otherwise, let's go ahead and dive on in. Another shameless plug real quick. June is Heihe month. Don't you forget that, okay? This is on my X account. Follow me on XWW Bitcoin. Thanks to a generous whale, we have a massive giveaway coming this month. 1 million Heihe tokens will be given away. First winner will receive 500,000 tokens. Second winner, 300,000. Third winner, 200,000. To enter, you will need to buy 1 Solana worth of Heihe and hold it until the end of the month. Winners will be announced on July 1st. And you could do multiple entries. You could do as many entries as you want. And so go ahead. There are some reasons to be bullish with this particular cryptocurrency. The goal for this month is for it to outperform the market by a decent amount, whether we have a very bullish month or whatever, we are going to outperform the market. But moving on to Bitcoin. From Decode here, massive outperformance in gold can only last so long. Bitcoin loves to follow. I've drawn your guys' attention to charts like this before. And the reason why I'm bringing it up again is simply because gold is getting hot again and silver as well. And so what do we make of it? Well, gold still hasn't passed its all-time high from about a month ago. And we are possibly in early stages of Bitcoin outperforming gold. You can see, gold does well, Bitcoin chops. Gold, and then when Bitcoin explodes, that's in a period of consolidation for gold. Bitcoin explodes, period of consolidation for gold. Gold explodes, period of consolidation for Bitcoin. And so right now we're at a point where gold has exploded. So is Bitcoin next? There is a compelling case to be made with that. You can see the macro trend oscillator from Decode. He designs his own charts, but you can see a point of this oscillator flipping more in Bitcoin's favor, and we are very close to that level. So will history repeat? Given the fact that gold moves much slower than Bitcoin, I tend to think so, but you got to understand with this chart, this could play itself out over a longer period of time than crypto people tend to think. So keep that in mind, but moving on. Trader 360, is this what we have next? Why am I sharing this chart? Am I sharing this because I believe it? What is this chart? This is the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, and you can see descending wedge here. And what do we have? We have a floor where ETH Bitcoin hits, and then explosive moves higher in the Ethereum price. And you can see, in comparison to Bitcoin at least, you can see really we just went right back down to the level that we were at in late 2020. And throughout 2020, actually early 2020. So Ethereum was actually at one point much lower in price. So we tend to think, right, that, man, Ethereum's dead. It's just so much worse than Bitcoin. Rather be buying Bitcoin, which I actually do believe. But that doesn't mean that Ethereum is not going to have its day. Am I promising this is going to happen? No. Do I desire greatly for this to happen? Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes. Yes, I do. That would be a significant move for altcoins. So are we in the middle, in the early stages, of some kind of a dead cat bounce potentially with Ethereum in its Bitcoin chart at least? I'm not talking about ETH. No way ETH is going to hit all-time highs or anything like that. It's possible. We'll see how this plays itself out. These are monthly candles. Just keep that in mind. So monthly candles take months to play themselves out. Okay. Moving on. Though lower than the prior week, last week's inflow of 6,148 Bitcoin into the U.S. spot ETFs marks 7 consecutive weeks of net inflows, highlighting consistent demand despite cooling momentum. This is an absolute game changer. And so 7 weeks, last week was on the lower end of that 7-week stretch. And are we good to go? Will we have week number 8? Well, it's going to be really interesting to see. So I always make my videos a day before. You can look for yourself. Look at these last couple of weeks, very bullish for Bitcoin, seeing all this accumulation. But then May 29th and May 30th, it's $1 billion, almost $1 billion of outflows. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this looks like for June 2nd. And you could do that yourself right now. I am making this in the past, so I can't see it. But right now, as you're watching or listening to this video, you can go to farside.co.uk/BTC/ and see how much Bitcoin went in and out. I would greatly appreciate it if we saw the inflows continuing and that this was just an anomaly of sorts, this $1 billion worth of outflows. Moving on, something that I find pretty interesting here. And something I really need to think about in terms of, is it worth it buying MicroStrategy, not instead of Bitcoin, but also just kind of a Bitcoin correlated thing. This is very compelling. All it takes is a chart like this, and it can add perspective. So what am I looking at? What are we looking at here? Or unless you're listening, let me read it to you. MSTR's Bitcoin per share continues to climb, reaching a new high this quarter. This is probably the most important metric to judge the success of MicroStrategy's Bitcoin acquisition strategy. So they dilute their shares. They always have these auctions of shares, dilutes the supply. People complain, and yet their amount of Bitcoin per share continues to climb. And so here we are. This particular quarter of 2025, so this was 2024, but in 2025, it's still like that. And if that's the case, I've seen people make an argument that MicroStrategy is going to be a $70 trillion market cap company. And if that's the case, think about that, $70 trillion, the largest company in the world is around $3 trillion. It's Microsoft. So 70 trillion one day, that's significant gains between now and then. Maybe worth buying a little MSTR as well. Something else that might interest only me from Alpha Fractal, 10.5% of active cryptocurrencies have disappeared in just 2 months. Now, all right, there's millions upon millions and lots of them just they're rug pulls and things like that. This is in particular active cryptocurrencies on coinmarketcap.com. And we're talking about thousands. We're talking about there was once 11,000 active cryptocurrencies on coinmarketcap.com. Now it's under 10,000. Is there a pattern that we can draw from this? Well, when you see these downslopes, historically, that's in bear market territory. And here we are with Bitcoin at an all-time high. Now, altcoins, yeah, people are really frustrated about their altcoins, but we see this downslope. With Bitcoin where it is right now, that's actually pretty interesting to me. And so when do things get kind of hot at least is when we see an upslope. So, hey, fun fact, Heihe is one of those 10,000, less than 10,000 cryptocurrencies listed on coinmarketcap.com. Maybe, just maybe, don't fade the fox. Moving on, back to the Bitcoin M2 12-week lead, 78-day lead, all that stuff. Let's see what we have from Bill Barheit here. I've seen over a dozen posts with different versions of the global liquidity M2 versus Bitcoin price chart. I've attached several here. Credit RaPal and his colleague Julian Battelle for discovering the trend. Oh, okay. I didn't know that was the case. Most of these charts predict a dip over the coming days to around 100K and then a move to a new all-time high of 130K in August, September. I've seen different estimates. There are reasons to believe this outcome. The coming dip should just be sideways movement for a few days or a capitulation move down to 95K, or this could all be horse poo, whatever. Most importantly, it's clear that the global liquidity needs to rise significantly in the coming months. And that has nothing to do with Bitcoin's price. It needs to rise. Bitcoin remains the mother of all liquidity sponges. As the price of Bitcoin rises, those gains will most likely spill over to other layer one platforms. All right, now he's talking. Of course, we got to talk about alt season, right? and then ultimately speculative alts, the proverbial alt season. We will see. We will see. There's several different M2 charts on here. So here's RaPal's, and then some other ones. I'm not as familiar with who these are, but this one, actually, this is a little old because well, all right. If this one were to play itself out, this would call for $150,000 this month. It's probably not happening. One could wish. And here's another one from Colin Talks Crypto. And what do we have ahead of us in June? A big spike up. This is more along the lines of what I've seen. $135,000 Bitcoin in June. Dipping down, peak fear under 120,000, and then pop off to the races. And then by August, we'd be at $200,000. That seems a little far-fetched or a lot. And one more M2 supply chart. This one would put us at, in the 90s in early June. So you can see that arrow pointing there, and then boom, we're up. Now, for those of you who watch the Blockchain Backer, he's calling for an ABC correction here, and that we are in the early stages of an ABC correction. So we're in the A stage. Okay, so what do we call this? This would be an A. How low does it go? Maybe it's bottomed out already, or maybe it's going to continue to go down, or yeah. And then a B move up to below the previous all-time high of 112 and change, and then a C move, and he called this to go down to like a very quick move down to like the mid 90s or so, and then off to the races. And I'm seeing here the 200-day moving average, and look at it, it's rising, it's continuing to rise. So maybe we would see something like this. Bitcoin and the 200-day have an intersection here, and that would be a perfect time to get in. And then, boom, we're ready to go. We'll see, but that would very much align with what we have here with this M2 chart. As always, don't be married to any one particular idea. Are we going to continue to follow M2? I really hope so. Let's hope so. Let's get excited about moves that continue to align with this. When you think back to early April, would you have honestly thought that we would be up to 112 at some point? I personally would have had a very hard time believing that we would have gotten to 112 in May. And so anything's possible. Let's keep our eyes on the ball. Moving on. So economic stuff here. Holy cow! Okay, this particular account, I follow them, Global Markets Investor. They get a little dramatic with their charts, I'm not going to lie. But speaking of RaPal, this is something RaPal pays a lot of attention to. Okay, so RaPal, not that you're listening, but if you are, does this affect your outlook on Bitcoin? Because this is the U.S. ISM manufacturing imports plunged 7.2 points in May to 39.9 points, the lowest since the great financial crisis, lower than COVID. This comes as firms pulled back on buying overseas due to higher tariffs. Overall, manufacturing sector has contracted for 3 months straight. Okay. If you ever pay attention to any of RaPal's videos, he correlates Bitcoin with manufacturing. All right, just keep that in mind. Moving on. In news that would make me think that we're not going to crash because this keeps happening all the time, not going to crash anytime soon at least. We have new Hong Kong-based retailer Logitech announces they will buy 1.5 billion dollars worth of Bitcoin for their reserves. It seems like every week there is another billion and change being thrown around for their reserves, for long-term holding. That does carry some significance, and this is happening at an increasing rate that we can't ignore it anymore. And all right, is this the time? Is this the time that we are going to break out? I forgot that I had that. I was supposed to be lumped in with the other Bitcoin stuff. Well, all right, is this the time we're going to break out? Here we go. It's going to be very interesting to see where we go from here with the S&P 500. I would love it if it was a V-shaped recovery from here. Let's break to the upside. That's the move that does not make the most sense. And so is that the move that's most likely to happen? SPY is getting tighter than a blade bolt on a 1965 John Deere brush mower that's been sitting outside for 60 years. Okay, quite an analogy there. And so do we break out to the upside? Do we break out to the downside? Let's keep paying attention to that. It's going to give a lot of information as to where we're going next. But, okay, Bitcoin at the moment that I'm making this video at least is 104 and change. Bitcoin dominance, very important. So we need this to stop going up. And on this day that I'm making this video in particular, well, it's a good day. So 786, it got rejected at the 702 multiple times. Went up to the 786. Now it's gotten rejected there 2 times. If Bitcoin dominance makes another move higher, I'm not going to be as excited about holding altcoins as I was when we saw, this dump here. V-shaped recovery in Bitcoin dominance moving higher. Doesn't sound great, but hey, we're not waving the white flag just yet. We can see this make another leg down here. Absolutely. And Ethereum at the moment, at least, is holding up pretty strong. And this is the hope. This is the game plan here. If we can see Ethereum break through this resistance right here, Bitcoin dominance is going to plummet. Because I think after this, it would be $3,000 Ethereum pretty easily. And that's not a bad looking chart. A lot of altcoin charts look pretty bad right now, but Ethereum does not. Ethereum breaking through this makes those altcoin charts look a lot better. But I've mentioned this on my live stream yesterday. If we were to see another, 3 weeks or so of Ethereum going up, just chopping, trying to break through, not breaking through, and then it breaks through. During this 3-week stretch, I think a lot of other cryptocurrencies, especially meme coins, larger cap meme coins, are going to bleed out. So for example, we have Brett here. Brett and WIF are kind of 2 prime examples that I think of. I could see Brett just, continuing to, while Ethereum's trying to break through, just continuing to grind down here. And then when Ethereum breaks through, Brett would go higher. Same deal with WIF. So I'm not too excited to be all in right now. But something like this with WIF, just, trending down. And then we'll see. I mean, maybe not that aggressive. I got a little too excited there. But until we see Ethereum break out, I think that's the name of the game for a lot of these meme coins, a lot of smaller cap altcoins, is that, a lot of these charts don't look good. Here's VeChain, for example. A lot of these charts aren't looking so good. They look like they're wanting to go down more. Let's see Ethereum break to the upside and those worries go away. So anyway, that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week. And I will certainly be seeing you in another video.